This is a definitive guide to literally every single question that you may have about self-defense. Any question that you could possibly have will be discussed here, and what I have done is actually created a tree diagram to try and encapsulate every single route possible for a potential claim of self-defense. Okay, so let's jump right in. So this is the tree diagram that I have created, and what we're going to do, we're going to start right up here with the first question. Did the victim pose a threat? So you would expect in this scenario that, I don't know, let's say Jeremy was running towards you and he was posing some sort of threat to you, and therefore that's why you acted in self-defense. So there's either two options here. He did pose a threat or he didn't pose a threat. So let's assume that he didn't. So no, it wasn't a threat. Here we go. So if he didn't pose a threat to yourself, then you generally wouldn't expect self-defense unless if we consider this. So there is doubt to whether, in fact, it is possible to use defense when protecting property. So this is quite an interesting one. So then I guess the next question naturally follows, did you use reasonable force to protect your property? So if he threatened to destroy your house, some other form of property, and you acted in defense, and it may not necessarily be defense towards yourself, but towards your property, could there be a claim here? Potentially. Look at the R and Hitchens case 2011 for more information. So either you did or you didn't, yes or no. So if you said no, he didn't act as a threat towards your property, then self-defense will not apply. But, and this is a big but, if you said yes, you did act in self-defense because the person was destroying your property, it may apply, but it's very subject and contextually dependent. And please check out the Farage 2007 case and the Burns case. So that's if the person, Jeremy in this case, didn't pose a threat towards yourself. But if he did, let's go down. Yes, Jeremy did pose a threat. The victim must pose a risk to the defendant or someone else. That's exactly what we need. That's what we're talking about. But the next natural question we need to consider is, was the threat unjustified? So, I mean, one example of what exactly I mean by this is, for example, if James attacked Jeremy and Jeremy tried to defend himself and then James tried to hit him, attack back, you can't use that attack as some form of self-defense. Okay, so now that's illustrated in the Jones case once again. So, was the threat unjustified? Very simple, yes or no. So if you said yes, the threat was unjustified, then, as I may have already illustrated, self-defense will not apply. Again, see the 2006 Jones case for further reading. But if you in fact said no, it was in fact justified, the next question is this: was it actually necessary to use force in this scenario? And if you said no, it wasn't necessary to use force, we come to this bit, which says, well, ultimately you have to show that it was necessary to use force. Although you don't have a duty to retreat, if you can escape and you choose not to, self-defense will likely fail. The law does not, again, prevent or permit the defendant to take a preemptive strike, but even if you do fall into this scenario, you may or may not have some sort of leverage if you were in your house or you are a police officer. So were you in your house or you were a police officer? If you were neither of these, self-defense will not apply. However, if you said yes, you were in your house, or if you're a police officer, well, if you're in your household, this is quite interesting because you're allowed to use a disproportionate amount of force. On the other hand, if you're a police officer, there is greater latitude with regards to what is considered reasonable force under Section 117 of the 1984 Act. Here. Okay, so that's, it wasn't necessary to use force. Let's say, yes, it was necessary to use force. Then the next natural question is, was it a reasonable amount of force in the given scenario? So the question is whether a reasonable person would say that the level of force was reasonable, not whether you thought it was reasonable. So it's an objective, not a subjective test. The 1995 case here gives a greater description on this. So what exactly I mean by this is that, well, if you punch someone 50 times when a couple of times would be enough, then, well, that's quite obvious. I mean, that is overly not reasonable. Let's say, no, the use of force was not reasonable. Then, unfortunately, self-defense will not apply. However, if you said yes, the next question is this. Were you acting to defend yourself? And I assume if you've already reached this stage, the answer would quite generally be yes. Let's have a look what it says. So no, you weren't acting to defend yourself. Well, obviously self-defense won't apply. But if you were, the next question is this. Was the threat imminent? So did you believe that it was going to happen within the immediate future? If you said no, usually self-defense will not apply, but it's ultimately dependent on the facts. So look at the 1988 case. Okay, so if you said, in fact, the threat was imminent, which I generally would expect it would be, the next natural question is this. Were you so drunk that you mistakenly believed you were acting in self-defense? If you said yes, self-defense will not apply. However, your charge may or may not, depending on the circumstances, be dropped to manslaughter. But if you said that you were not drunk, then self-defense will apply. So I hope you like my little tree diagram I did. I tried to cover mostly every scenario you could possibly consider when weighing up if you should be charged or if you can use self-defense or not. Let me know if I've missed anything or if you enjoy this kind of content and I can create some more if it's beneficial towards you. Thank you for listening and see you next week.